Let's get this cooler installed. So for starters, the way you're going to be able to tell the brackets apart if you have the right AM4 bracket, which we're going to be installing this on our 1800X, is you're going to see, so this bracket here, you've only got these like kind of two holes going, or there's one holes up in the top edges here, where if you have an AM4 bracket, you're going to see that there's two holes and they're kind of offset from each other. So that's your AM4. So once you get to that point, then you pretty much have to put these bolts through. You're going to put the bolts through the back of the bracket. You're going to use the kind of the hole closer to the bottom here, or the outside edge, or however you want to say that. And the thing about this is there's a little bit of an offset on this bracket so that this will space this from the motherboard. And because there's some little solder dots and stuff that go with the other side, that's why they're doing that. But then to further space it, they're going to also have this rubber washer that you slide on here. And that rubber washer is going to help hold that pin in, and then it's going to help space this so it doesn't touch the motherboard. Now, I'm going to already give this marks off now. I'm going to start being a real stickler about this. If we use the regular AMD AM4 bracket, this thing's got a plastic guard so it won't short out, but it also completely and fully supports the socket. See, this little square is not big enough to where there won't be good solid metal support to the back of this chip. And these things, they let your motherboard bow over time. In fact, there's no guarantee that with the pressure of the cooler, this won't bow enough to where the motherboard could make contact with the metal. I don't like this. I want to see companies stop doing this. Use AMD's bracket. This thing is solid, it's secure, it keeps the motherboard from bending, and is less likely to, over time, cause any kind of minor stress fractures within the socket or in the surrounding area of the PCB of the motherboard. So once we got the bracket in there and it's in the holes, then we've got 4 of these white spacers that go on each of the poles. So, like so. Then, so it's important that we get this bracket spaced the way that we want it to go, because this mounting bracket is going to go across here, and that's going to determine how the CPU cooler faces. So in this particular case, I want the CPU cooler to face towards bingo. I want the cooler to be able to face and towards the back here, so I'm going to make sure these mounting holes are to the side like that. And then we've got 4 of these little tiny nuts that we get to, deja vu moment. But yes, they are 4 little tiny nuts that we get to screw on to hold the bracket down. Just like so. And once we get those on there, Reeven also includes this little tool, and this will help us tighten it down so it's secure. If I can actually get it on there. It's a little bit of a tight fit, and honestly, this is the moment where I really wish we had a screwdriver instead of this, because this is just a little bit hard to do, but it's not the end of the world. So screwdrivers are a little bit easier, but that's plenty functional enough, not a big deal. Okay, so once we get to this point, we've got the CPU cooler now installed. We just have to screw in 2 screws into the bracket that has a little center bracket that goes across the bottom part of the cooler, and it's all installed. Now, one thing I've noticed about Reeven is sometimes, if you can kind of see, this has quite a bit of wiggle room. It feels pretty loose. So that's just something that, if it's not secure enough or tight enough, could potentially affect cooling performance, but that will be totally up to the numbers. Now, with that being said, we can now put our fan in there. So we've got a big giant yellow fan and a couple of these little metal clips. So, you know, I'm going to try to arrange this fan so that the wire is going to be able to go up through my cable management spot, and since that's going to be the spot right about there, I got to get a clip in on this side, so I'll have a clip there, and then I will have a clip over on that side. And so this is where it gets kind of tricky, because sometimes these clips don't hold very well. Because basically, we've got to get this guy and have this clip flip over the fin so it kind of latches and holds on. But now that that's in, I might be able to get this bottom one in. Feeling. So see, if I put this clip in beforehand, it's going to probably slip out because it doesn't have a really good catch to hold it into the fan frame. But then I have to do magic here and try to feel just the right spot. Aha, got it finally. So that's kind of a pain. You know, if anything, I like it when you can see those clips really hold well on their own, and I'm not having to go through quite that much finagling. And see, if I don't get this clipped on right, it's just going to keep falling out. So that's going to be kind of a pain. Like a lot of times with Noctua coolers, their clips kind of hold themselves in, and all I have to do is just slide the fan in. One of the other things that I needed to show is when I was trying to install this unit, couldn't get these fan clips to clip for the life of me. And, well, that's because I was doing it wrong. So one of the things to realize is that these clips look really short. Like you don't think they're going to make it. So, and the way that this extra spot here is kind of outdented here, you'd think the clip goes all the way to the back. So my initial impression was I put the clip on the inside and try to reach down here, but that is not correct. You won't get it to clip because it'll pop the other side off. So all you're supposed to do is put it right here at the front of the fan, and then you're actually just reaching down to that little notch, that first notch right there. And if you do that, you should have no problem clipping these fans on. I do wish these clips would still, though, hold on to the fan frame instead of just being a little tiny hook that can fall out really easily. But hey, it's not too big of a deal. It's, you know, since you can just reach right there into the front, pretty simple, pretty straightforward.